Hey, welcome to Church Leadership Lab. This is a podcast dedicated to helping church leaders build healthy churches, and this is the very first episode. Kacie, how do you feel about that?
It's finally here. We've
Finally
been talking
here.
about this for how long? How long have we been talking about this?
Months, if not more. Yeah, a lot of thought, a lot of planning, honestly, a lot of dreaming too around what this could be. But obviously we start at the beginning, which is where we find ourselves. And so if you are listening to this episode, you are probably wondering, first of all, who are these people that I'm watching or listening to? So why don't we start there? Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's the beginning. You got to start somewhere.
It's the beginning. All right. Well, let's introduce ourselves. Kacie, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Ladies first? Really?
Exactly. Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. I respect that. My name is Kacie Frazier. I am in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Not sure if geography matters, but why not tell you where I am? That's who I am. And I've been here for, almost 5 years serving the church through technology, which is kind of bananas because I am not a tech person. That's not my background. My background is nonprofit and healthcare administration, but God is funny and led me here. I'm also a third generation preacher's daughter, preacher's sister, cousin, niece, all the things. My family is just full of ministers. So in a roundabout way, here I am also continuing that and serving in ministry, just on a completely different side. So yeah, that's it. What else? That's what you need to know.
That's the majority. So I'll go next. My name is Scott Holthouse, and I have served in pastoral ministry for the last 15 plus years, in a lot of different contexts, different roles, everything from, and the majority maybe spent as both kind of worship pastor, creative pastor, that sort of thing, as well as overseeing small groups, kind of associate pastor role in big churches, in church plants, in churches in between. So long story short, I love the church. I love getting to serve the church and at a broader picture, serve church leaders. I am in the Chicagoland area. And so if you're in Chicago, you're like, there's a thing with people in the Chicago area. Like if you're from here, if I was talking to that person who's from here, I'd say exactly where I was from. Cause you don't say you're from Chicago if you don't actually live in Chicago, but everyone outside of it doesn't really care. So, Chicagoland area. And I, really love getting to pour into pastors and church leaders and really help any way I can. Cause been in that seat, know the struggles, know the difficulties, and also know the joys and the beauty. So I think, did I cover it? Is that good?
That's a lot. That's good. But
I know.
You did mention that
longer.
you led worship. So there's going to have to be at least one song in every episode, I think.
I think so. That'll be the outtakes. That'll be like the bloopers. Or we'll start what do people start? What are those things called? Patreons, I think.
Right. That's a whole different show.
Yeah, you pay a little bit, but you get the good stuff. So we'll see about that. Nobody wants that. So
next season.
Yes. Well, I think it's important kind of as we launch into this, I think to kind of talk about what is it? So, Church Leadership Lab, what does that mean? What are we doing? And kind of, I think hit on those things. I know that we've talked a lot about that in preparing for this and kind of getting ready. And so, I think there's three buckets that I would say. So what is Church Leadership Lab? It's a community. And I'll just give these highlights and we can dig into them, but it's a community. It's a community of church leaders. And then it's a community of church leaders working to cultivate healthy churches. So I'll take that first one, but when I say it's a community, what does that mean? I think when I think of community, I think of a place where there is give and take, a place where there is belonging, a place where, yeah, you can kind of be a part of something. And so I know that that's kind of our goal, is that there would be, there'd be kind of value given. But then also there, hopefully that would grow to be a place where, we can even hear more about the ways to serve, the way to pour into church leaders, and that sort of thing.
I love, you said belonging, right? So I think of a community like my neighborhood or my friend group, and you belong to it. So I think it might be kind of worth mentioning that what we've envisioned this being is not just us, but inviting those community members to come actually, you tell us what's going on in your community. What does it mean to belong to your community? Of course, we're going to get to that, but it is not just the Scott and Kacie show forever. It's just, hey, let's get this started and then invite those that belong to this community to speak to itself, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think this first one is the only Scott and Kacie show. Well, there may be
Let's
others.
hope so.
There might be others. We're not going to put ourselves in the box, 10 minutes into this thing.
That's probably a good safe plan.
Yeah. But no, yeah. And I think one thing we've talked about too is hearing and sharing stories of what's happening in the church. I know that the reality is it's by and large, it's a difficult time to lead, serve, plant, grow, pastor a church right now. So I think too, being able to share stories from people on the ground doing that and seeing the fruit that comes, hopefully to be a little bit of an encouragement, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah, of course. And then, so who is this for, right? So leaders, and to me, that means so many different things. So the last thing that I want anyone to think is that, man, I have to be on staff. I have to be a full-time vocational pastor for this to apply to me. Because, man, we are all leaders. For me, if you attend a church, hey, guess what? You're a leader. And if you don't feel like you are, man, you haven't either been told or empowered yet, but you are a leader simply by your attendance and your participation. So this is kind of for everyone to some degree. I don't want to speak for everybody, but to me, leader means so much more than you get a paycheck from a church. That should never be part of the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. And two, what happens sometimes is there's either resources, whether it's conferences, books, things that, and written just with maybe full-time vocational staff pastors in mind, which is great. I mean, this isn't to say anything against that, but just to say that there's a lot of people, whether it's bivocational, whether it's no vocational, meaning there's no paycheck. I had a conversation a couple weeks back with a woman who is, along with her husband, pastoring this church, and they get $0. Now they're in a life situation where they can pour themselves out for this, but it's just purely because it's what God's called them to do, and it's what they are stepping into. So yeah, definitely, I think looking outside of just, I get a salary from a church, definitely that group, but also everybody else, because it does too. It takes a lot of people, I think, to lead a healthy church, to lead a church in a way that, it's growing and thriving.
I had this conversation just this morning. It's kind of funny we're talking about it, but even the word church, does that evoke a mental image of a physical building? And if it does, then man, how limiting is that? Like, we are the church, any kind of fellowship of human beings who are of like mind and faith. Hey, that's the church. So everywhere we go, so way outside of a physical building. So healthy church leaders, church being capital C church, and way beyond any kind of a physical building or a geographical boundary, So it's just so much bigger than that.
It is. And I think too that I don't know, I think that we are on the cusp of, more and more churches maybe looking less traditional, in the sense of, I have a building, big building, small, whatever it is. I have a building people come and gather to once a week, and then, maybe have their small groups, that sort of thing. Again, that's I think one of the themes as we talk here is there's going to be a lot of saying like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that the way that cultural winds are blowing, the way that, just the accelerator that 2020 was, all of that stuff. I think there's a lot of churches that may look like 20 people meeting in a home. That might look like, some different things that, I think God is still moving through and working through. And you see that if you look back, the first century church looked a lot different than, what a lot of us know today. So.
Well, I love it. I love that we don't have to define one thing and then it has to stay that definition forever. Our goal is just to evolve with it. So pay attention. Where is this going? What is changing? And are we changing with it so that we can continue to be effective in our communities?
All right. So the three things, it's community of church leaders working to cultivate healthy churches. I think this is a good time then maybe to ask that question when we say healthy churches. So what is a
big question.
Church? Yeah.
What is a healthy church? And we just said, what is a church? So you almost have to break that down again. What is a church? What is your definition? Is that a group of people? Is it a community? What is that? And then what makes it healthy? You and I are in very different regions, even of the US. So our communities look different. So what might be healthy in your community might be very different in mine. So I love that even that doesn't have to be super well defined and it is copy paste for everyone. That's a big question with a lot of different, all correct answers.
Yeah. Well, let's do this then. Let's do this because I also think there are some distinguishing factors. Like there are some things to look at to say, this is healthy or not. So I think maybe it's a lot to chew, or what's the phrase? It's like lot to bite off. Is that no?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm really struggling with that one. Don't worry, folks. As the episodes go on, my phrases and quips will get a lot stronger. I promise.
I hope not.
So let's just say this. Let's say then, what are some elements? Like, what are some things that need to be present in a healthy church? And I'll say one that I think is really important. I would just say unity. I think that we probably both have stories. I've seen things up close and personal where there's a lack of unity, and that doesn't, unity again is not necessarily saying like we all think the same, like the same things, all sort of are in the same station in life. That's not necessarily that, but it is saying we are coming together under one cause, one purpose. We're forgiving one another. We are laying down our preferences for another. The list goes on. But I've seen a lot of situations where there isn't unity and just the chaos that can cause. And honestly, the lack of mission. Like a lot of time then is spent on fixing that or trying to grow that. And so if I'm making a list, I think I would put unity on there.
For sure. I don't know if I'm saying exactly the same thing, just in different words, but for me, how can I be unified if I don't know the clear vision of my church? So I kind of zoom out a little bit further than that and has the vision of this community, of this church that I say, man, that is mine, has the vision of that clearly been communicated by my leadership? So I'm thinking about my home church where I attend every Sunday and I go, man, I know why we exist. I know very clearly because it is so ingrained in our culture. I could tell you in one sentence what that church exists for, what it intends to do and intentionally does in my neighborhood, in my community. So it's a super clear vision that is really well communicated over and over and over. So there is no question about why we exist. So because I know so clearly why we exist, I can tell you the unification of the people who go there because they all support that clear vision. I think they kind of go hand in hand. I might just be saying the exact same thing you did, but in a different way. But do I know what I'm belonging to?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that I was trying to think of like a quippy way to say it. But to me, that clear vision is it's certainly an accelerator of unity. It's a clarifier. It's all of that. Like when you can say, here's what we're about, here's what we're for, here's why we do what we do. Especially as people come and are like, do I want to be a part of this? Like that can be really helpful and it's all good, but either to say, yeah, I do, or no, there's, maybe a different flavor for me. No, I think that's really good. I think the other thing I was thinking about, and these all do kind of like merge together, but this is a part of the unity, but I think a healthy church is connected. And I think a lot of us experienced that through 2020. A lot of us, and I was pastoring at a church at the time as a worship pastor, but the amount of energy and work and thought that just went into trying to stay connected. Like that was the thing, whether it was streaming services or small groups over Zoom or, the thing where like you pulled in and you listened to the service on a radio, like all together in the parking lot. I never did that one, but I saw people that did. I'm like, that seems difficult. Although it was all difficult. So
resourceful.
Yes. But I think that connection piece, is really important as well.
Well, we've talked about this word a lot, but engaging too. So again, I'm not disagreeing. I'm kind of adding on to exactly what you just said. If I have not been engaged, I don't even know the opportunities to connect. But I feel like engage is such a kind of a little bit of a buzzword. And I think that I've seen a little bit of pushback from some leaders saying, oh, so now I have to be engaging, and misunderstanding that with I have to be relevant. And I challenge that going, you don't have to just be cool or relevant for people to want to come. When I say engaging, I mean kind of back to that clear communication of your vision, where you are helping me become aware of opportunities to connect. You're engaging with me, or you're helping me find opportunities to be engaged. I'm not saying like you have to be really cool and relevant and like watered down the gospel to meet me where I'm at. That's not at all what I'm talking about. That is a whole different episode. But engaging me and giving me an opportunity to become engaged, which means connected, to knowing, man, there is a place for me here. This place needs me and my skills and my talents that God gave me to serve. So that engagement and connection, it kind of all goes hand in hand. But is not to be mistaken with relevance. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Yeah. And I think that's really good. All right, we won't give people everything on the first episode, but I feel like that's a good starting point as we're answering the question, what is a healthy church? What does it look like? And I know that we plan to kind of have some more conversation around that as we talk with more folks. All right, so we did. What is Church Leadership Lab? What do we hope to accomplish? Or what is it? What is a healthy church? Last one. What do we hope to accomplish? We've hinted at it. I think talked about it, but one is certainly build up church leaders. Again, it's been quite a ride. You can call it that the last few years, and I think if anything comes from this, I would love if there was some encouragement and some strength and some wind in the sails of folks leading churches in their communities, to keep going, to lead well, to strive for health, all of that. I certainly, hope that's top of the list of what we, accomplish.
Totally. I love sharing wisdom. And to me, that's experience, that's ideas, that's brainstorming, anything where you go, man, I would have never thought about that. What a great idea. Or man, why have I not done that in my community? Whatever those ideas. So again, all the way back to where we talked about a community where we are truly just sharing, just facilitating the conversation of what is happening in your church, in your leadership. What have you learned that you can share with somebody else that might go, well, that sure saved me 10 years. Like, thank you. Anything like that where we can just share wisdom, ideas, knowledge, even learning from the things that aren't so encouraging, the things that were, man, that was a colossal failure. So now be encouraged that you don't have to do the exact same thing that I did because it was a horrible idea. And
don't do that.
Even that stuff. Right.
Yeah. So I think those, and finally, I think just helping wherever we can, right? Like, and hopefully that's in these episodes, but also just the things that we can share from the collective community's experience, people that you and I know, conversations that we're going to get to have, and all of that, I think is exciting. All right. While this is the first episode, we already have an established segment that we are going to have hopefully on every episode. And the working title, the title right now is The Final Five. I don't know about Fast Five. I've thought about that, but is that I've heard that before. So
working title. I like it.
Working title.
It'll evolve over time.
Yes. The permission to change it. So, all right, Final Five. And I feel like it's only fair in the effort of introducing ourselves that we both answer these, okay?
I wish I had looked at these before we started recording today.
No,
so this is going to
better.
be super on the spot for me.
This is better. I could tell there's a little bit of pause there when I said we're both going to answer, okay? You're
no.
Sure.
No, that's good. Okay. That's good because then my answers will be 100% authentic.
Yes, exactly. All right.
Great.
First one. One book that you'd recommend to church leaders.
Me or you?
You first, because I got to think
Extreme Ownership. Oh, great. Thank you. Extreme Ownership. I don't know that is necessarily for church leaders, but the very first time I read that, it kind of messed me up. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Jocko Willink and Leaf.
Just Google those. Just Google Extreme Ownership Jocko, and that it'll pop.
We'll link it in the show notes, I'm sure. But Extreme Ownership messed me up. Oh shoot! Sorry, we have to do that now.
Sorry, go ahead.
So that book really, really jacked up the way I was thinking about apologizing for things in a really, really good way. I don't want to give it away, but if anything is under your leadership, it is your fault. And that does not at all mean in a bad way. It means it's under your ownership. And man, that again, just completely changed my thinking of leadership years ago. So that's mine.
That's good. So this one would be specific for church leaders and just I think maybe managing their life and their leadership, but Atomic Habits.
Good one.
To me, I know there's a few go-tos for books on habits. I think The Power of Habit is one, but Atomic Habits for me was the most impactful and one that I felt at least resonated with me, gave some clear action. And I thought it was really good. James Clear. I'm looking at it. James Clear wrote it, Atomic Habits.
Man, you cheated. I did not cheat. So I'm sure I messed mine up. I'll cheat next time.
Well, I almost turned around because the books behind me are not props. I actually have read them. I don't know. Can you turn around on podcasts? I don't know. I feel like I'm breaking the rules.
You just did. So yes.
Anyone watching on YouTube just saw that. Anyway. All right. Second one. And this is, you gotta be honest. Okay. Last thing you listen to, last thing on Spotify or Apple Music, whatever one you use.
Oh gosh. Well, we haven't aired this yet, but at the time of recording, this was just before Christmas. So mine was Handel's Messiah. The whole thing. Yeah. So Baroque music. I know.
Wow.
Because I went to hear. I know. So I said I'm in Tulsa. There is this year, I just went with my mom on Sunday. All of the Lutheran choirs in the Tulsa area come together every single year and do Handel's Messiah. So full organ, orchestra, choir. It's amazing and that's so cool. Beautiful and so reverent. And this year was the 100th performance of it. So it's kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Speaking of unity, that's awesome.
I know.
I stumbled upon my wife, my kids, myself, we're all pretty big Greatest Showman fans. Nice. And I didn't even know this. I just stumbled across this this week. There's a alternative one that
What?
they basically let like not let they like ask different pop star or not even pop stars like Panic at the Disco, Pink, Kelly Clarkson, like all these Zach Brown band like re-record certain songs of them. And I love it. It's awesome. So
Fun fact, I'm a huge musical theater nerd, like in my
okay,
past life. So I'm all about everything you just said.
yeah, it's good stuff. Speaking of, I took like my wife and I took way too long to see Hamilton. Hamilton was like such a big
Oh,
thing. I sort of had this thing in me where I'm like, I don't want to see it. Everyone loves it. And when we finally did, I was like, oh, it's pretty good. I see what the hype.
okay.
Yeah.
Welcome
Um,
aboard.
yeah, we got there. All right. Favorite piece of technology that you own?
It is, for those listening, you can't see it. If you're on YouTube, you can. It's my ring. It's an Aura ring. So I'm a bit of a health nerd. So this monitors my sleep, my body temperature,
Wow.
my heart rhythms, my blood oxygen levels, absolutely everything. So it's like my Apple Watch on steroids, and I absolutely love it.
Does it really like, does it, because I've heard of those. Does it really work? Like, does
Yes,
it
I
do
will
like a
show
really,
you. No, there's a whole
okay.
app. And yes,
We're not
every
even
single
sponsored by
morning.
Aura Rings.
No, but we should be. It's like, it's
Yeah.
so great. It tells me my daily readiness score, which correlates to how well I slept, which, with two small children is not well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it helps you kind of be more mindful and realize I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm not paying enough attention to my physical health, which does not help me be a good mother or a good, a member of my healthy community because I'm
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
healthy member of myself. So I love it.
Nice. Mine would be probably my AirPods, actually. I
As
have
you're
them
not
somewhere.
wearing AirPods, but
I
I
know.
am.
I know. I tend to use them often. Um, yeah, I think that's what I would put forth as my
It's a
favorite.
very close number 2 for me.
Yeah. Quote or advice, number 4. Quote or advice that stuck with you over the years.
Man, I feel like I should have prepared more for this one because this feels like it should be really just impactful, but I did not prepare. So this is going to just be never use absolutes, which I understand never is an absolute, but I understand that. I see the hypocrisy, but trying never to say always or never, because it is almost never, never, or it is rarely always, always. There's always some gray area. So learning to argue fairly, saying words like always and never are
Yeah.
always wrong and never help you win the fight. So to
There you
fight
go.
fair, not use absolutes.
Yeah. I love that. I think there's two. One of them, I don't know if it would classify as cheesy, but
Well, now.
it might. Yeah, but like people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. So whether you find it cheesy or not, it's true and it's
It
good.
is true, right?
The other one stuck with me a lot. This was in ministry. Again, I was a worship leader, worship pastor, and I had a worship pastor friend I really looked up to. And he would say all the time, love the people more than the music. And I feel like that applies to a lot of ministry, especially ministry that might be done on a stage.
Absolutely.
Love the people more than, and it's a really interesting paradigm then to think about the way that you plan, prepare, all that stuff. So
I love that. Because
yeah,
whatever your music is, whether it's music or speaking or serving in a kids department, whatever your version of music is, if you're not seeing, that's really, really good.
yeah. All right. This one, okay, we'll answer this. I feel like we're going to have other shots at this in the course of the Church Leadership Lab. But one thing you'd like to communicate to our audience of church leaders.
Okay, now it's my turn to be, this might be cheesy, but it is, you are so not alone. All the way back to number 1. Man, again, growing up in the church, sometimes that just feels, or it can, hopefully not for everybody, but for me, sometimes that's a very isolating vocation or an isolating life that you are living. And it's really, really hard. It was for me. I was a
Yeah.
preacher's daughter, but I did not mention this. I led worship for 15 years. So a lot of my persona was exactly what you just said. It was on a stage. So you kind of lose a little bit of yourself in that persona. That can create a lot of isolation. So, man, if you are in this community, if you are a leader, which we already said, you do not have to be on staff to be a leader. Man, you are understood and kind of so cheesy. Like, this is a safe place to just not worry about the persona or the perception, just to be a little bit more real than sometimes it can feel like we need to be when there are a lot of eyes on you, and just be a lot more authentic. I learned way too late in life that people appreciate authenticity, not perfection. And that's my advice. That's my advice that I should have given for number 4, that I would go back and tell like my 13-year-old self. No one, and especially God, does not need perfection. He just needs you. And who you are is great. So
I feel like you had like 3 different
I know, I'm
quotes or
sorry.
advices.
Sorry.
Hey, that's all right. What is one thing I'd like to communicate? I think I'd like to see you matter. And what you're doing matters, and it's really important. And I think our culture will continue to progress how it is. And I think the need for really healthy churches and really healthy church leaders is going to just get bigger and bigger. So I think that's what I'd say.
Man, you did way better than I did.
Well, you had more like nuggets, so
I just think in real time. So I need to be more. I need to be more like Scott. That's my goal for 2023.
I would shoot higher if I were you. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, thank you for listening, for watching, whatever one you chose to do. We're super excited. This is the start. And we're pumped to have, hopefully more and more episodes that are, honestly really helpful, to help church leaders build healthy churches. That's our goal. And so thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.